Welcome to The Author Next Door,
where we talk writing, publishing, and the business behind the books.
This podcast is for writers who are a few steps ahead into the journey. Maybe you've published, maybe you're planning what's next, and you realize the questions aren't getting easier. They're just getting more interesting.
Sometimes it's just our fabulous selves. Sometimes we bring friends to the table, but it's always lived experience and information you can use.
So pull up a chair. The conversation starts now. Welcome to episode 74. I'm Cassie Newell, and I'm here with my co-host, Angela Haas. This month, we're talking about creating community, what that looks like for writers, readers, podcasters, and people who gather around stories. Today, we're so excited to welcome Kara from Bookish Flights podcast and Gigi from Drinks in the Library. Before we dive into the conversation, I'm going to do a quick introduction. Kara Infante is a creator and host of the top-rated Bookish Flights podcast, where she explores the stories behind the books that shape our lives. And then I have Gigi Howard, who has been a public librarian for over 15 years and is the host of the podcast Drinks in the Library, where she interviews guests about their favorite book and pair it with a drink. I kind of love that. Both of you have created spaces where books aren't just talked about, they become connection points. So to kick us off, what made you want to build something around books and readers in the first place?
Kara, you start.
Okay, so I am a military spouse, and we move every 2 to 3 years for people that don't know that. And in this lifestyle of constantly changing my job, I was a physical therapist at the time, which we're licensed via state. So we have to change all of that and get new jobs every time we had to move for his job. And I just got really tired of that hamster race of starting over duty station after duty station. And so I decided, I was like, you know what? We had been living overseas in Italy, so I had taken 3 years off to stay home with my kids anyways, since I didn't speak Italian very well. So I decided to stay at home with my kids those 3 years. And I was like, what if I decide to do something that gives me a bit more flexibility that can move with us? So long story short, I was a podcast listener at the time, and I decided, what if I start a podcast? And I kind of, for 2 seconds, considered doing one on physical therapy. I was like, I'm going to get really bored with that. And then I thought, what do people call me about? And I'm like, well, they call me about books because I've been a lifelong reader. So I'm always getting calls about book recommendations. So I was like, what if I do that? I can still talk about physical therapy, and we can talk about, as you know, so many different topics via books. So that is how I landed on Bookish Flights and the podcast. But really, the book flight piece of it is everybody brings 3 book recommendations per episode. And I know as book lovers, we can tend to fire hose people with book recommendations. So I thought, let's do this where we have 3 book recommendations to keep us all in check a little bit when we are talking about the books we love. So
Wonderful.
That's great. Yeah, I'll go next. As you said, I've been a public librarian. I stopped in. We were having a program right before this, so I went in and give my support. So that's my day job. I've been doing that and for over 15 years. And one of my favorite things is talking to people about their favorite books. Like I just I am genuinely enthralled in many things, mainly because I'm nosy. And so I will sit and listen to you tell me like why you love the story, and I just get so excited about it. And so a few years ago, I turned 40. I always think that's like such like a moment. I guess they'd say midlife crisis. Mine wasn't really a crisis, but it was more like, all right, I'm like halfway done, I guess. Like what what am I going to do for the next 40 years? So I had always wanted to do something around books, but my problem in my life is I am chatty Kathy. I
You
love
and
to
Angela
talk.
are going to be fun to wrangle in.
Yes. So I love to talk. I would love to be a writer someday. I'm very envious of people that can sit and meditate and be quiet, but that's just not me. My strength is being with other people. And so I thought, well, instead of like me trying to write about books, what if I talk to other people about books and let them do the talking too? And so you can see I'm in my home office here. This is where it started. I would have people come sit in this chair right here. They still do. And I make them their favorite drink, and they get to talk about their favorite books. So that's how it got started. And then it's kind of like just grown since there. And now I get to like have conversations with people around the country and the world about books and stories. And that's so important to me. So love it.
It's a dream. I love it too. Gosh. So when we talk about community and creating community, it didn't sound like at first you set out to do that. You were kind of looking at a kind of a task thing for yourself, but then it's grown into big communities. How do you think there was something that just occurred along the way organically, or were there things that you did to grow those communities?
You want to go first, Gigi, this time?
Yeah. I heard this amazing quote like 10 years ago from another librarian, Steve Kemple. I don't think he's in libraries anymore. Anyway, it was, if you create something amazing, people are going to want to be a part of it. And I think that that just naturally happens. And the thing is just to be brave and not like poo poo your crazy idea that you're going to start recording people having conversations about books, and to just go with it and see what happens. And so with that, yeah, people want to jump in, and of course people love to yap about like a book that they loved and stories that they loved, and they'll talk about themselves and their journeys and those things. And so it's just kind of grown from there. I will say it's kind of scary when all of a sudden you have people, you just intended it to be like this interior thing, and then people are like, well, I why don't you sign up, why don't you do this with us, why don't you do that? So then it's the journey of like saying yes to things that you were not expecting. And I think that has been like the secondary lesson that I've learned, to like not be scared and just to go with it and to like make friends. Here we are, make new
Yeah.
friends on the way. So that's my story, I think. What about you, Kara?
Yeah, to piggyback on that, I think, and you guys could probably all attest to this, that sometimes the world of podcasting, you're not getting that direct one-on-one conversation. So you're not getting the feedback from there. And so sometimes it's like, am I speaking to the abyss? Like, are there people out there? And obviously we can see download numbers and all of those things. But for me, like you said, that first year was really just about learning podcasting, getting comfortable doing this. And then after that, I was like, I kind of want to start knowing who my listeners are too. And so I started a book club within my podcast where it's still the same format, but the author joins us for the call, and then the listeners get to join us for the call as well. So they get to be part of a live interview and help me interview the author that we are interviewing for that episode, but we have all read the book. And so that has given me, I think I've just finished my second year doing that. That's given me a little bit of access to the listeners too, where we're still doing it in an online format, which ideally, yes, meeting in person would be wonderful, but we're all busy and we all live around the world, which is the beautiful thing.
Right.
But it has allowed me to get some more of that community piece together.
Yeah. What about for y'all?
Guest has never asked
It's
us
like,
a
I'm looking at
question.
Angela going,
We're
are
like,
you?
we're just hanging on their every word, just admiring them. And they're like, oh, yeah, we do podcasting too.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're in our second season, but I think we're still growing. I mean, Kara, you're at like over 200 episodes.
Yeah.
And Gigi, you're a same, aren't you? Like pretty much.
I'm at like 110 or something like that.
I
Yeah.
think we're all
Right,
stacked
okay.
because Gigi's like we were a year apart in our podcasting.
Okay.
So I'm at year
Yeah.
4. I mean, I'm double than you right now, so you'll get there.
Yeah. And so we
This is our second year.
yeah, this is in between our second year. And it was just like, wow. When you think about podcasts, that some of them don't make it to past 10 episodes. And then, so we're celebrating, wow, we're in our 70s now. And that's really cool. And I think I'm still, trying to always figure out like, where do you find our community? Because I think it does. And I don't know, Cassie, if you feel like this sometimes, it does feel like, is anyone out there? Are we really talking to the best? But we will get on our socials every now and then. Oh my gosh, this is my favorite new podcast. I love listening. People want to be guests, and that keeps me going, just because you think that there's no one there, and then they start to pop up and about like, oh yeah, we do have some followers and we do have people who want to come on. So that makes us feel we are in this community, and our community is different because we do want to reach out to the author in their awkward sophomore year, not the person who's published 50 books, but not the person who's never written a book and is starting at Creative Writing 101. Not that we are for everyone, but I wanted to get into what's it like when you've published a book and now what? Because that's what it felt like for me. And I've talked to so many authors where they're like, okay, what do I do now? I made it, but what am I supposed to do now? And then it's marketing and promos and all this stuff. And so we really did try to niche down into that audience.
Yeah.
Cassie,
And
what
the
do you
other
think?
thing that we started this year, which was fun, was a little bit of my brainchild, but we have a romance corner called The Author Next Door After Dark, which is a subscription, but it's free once you just so you're in our newsletter. So you don't forget about us. But basically, it's an unlisted podcast of us talking about romance because we just put on our pajamas, grab a drink, and we chit chat, about romance as writers, also what we're reading, trying to help people out. Because since we're romance writers, I thought, oh, that'll be fun. That could potentially create buzz and community around that. But I think as an author, for me, creating community is quite different than this because I'm looking at community around the stories I write in my fictional town and growing that piece, which is a little different around ARC readers, ALC readers, and then pushing on beyond that. And now I've started to go to book cons and things like that to meet readers. And that has been a blessing and a lot of work to get there. But at the same time, it's been really quite thrilling because it's not that different than podcasting. You don't know who's buying your book half the time. You might see reviews and things, but they're still just in the ether of the internet. You don't really know them until you shake their hand and they tell you, oh, I love this story. And this reminded me of, when I met my husband, or it was just the perfect thing for me to read. And I listen to it all the time because I have audiobooks or whatever it is. So it's just a different feeling when you meet readers in person.
Yeah, I think that
I
helps energize for sure, right? When you go to those live events and because we moved so much, there was a bit of hesitation for me to start doing events here. I'm in San Diego based, but my husband got another set of orders here. So I was like, oh, we're going to be here for 4 years now. So I'm going to start jumping out. And that
Nice.
really did energize a little bit when you're getting out, you're talking to people and you're getting that interaction helps a lot.
Mm, yeah. And it's reminding me a lot of, and if people are listening to this that listen to my podcast, they're gonna be like, oh my God, she's quoting Anne Lamott again.
We all
Bird
do
by
it.
bird,
It's
or
fine. Yeah.
Bird by bird.
Mhm.
The quote is, sometimes you think you need the tea service for the tea, but what you actually need is the tea service. So I think, like we were talking about, like, we got into podcasting and you're like, think you're doing this one thing, but then all of a sudden you find out, like, the magic of the journey is like the experiences that you had because of it, that you weren't expecting it in the first place.
Right.
And yeah, I think about that all the time, like the real joy for me in all of this has been the people I've met along the way and the experiences I've gotten to have because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would
Yeah,
say one of the
absolutely.
big aspects too is Angela and I, we started out as, pretty decent friends, but when you do a podcast together, you become really close.
Yeah.
And I find when sometimes, we don't always go by the seat of our pants, but sometimes I do. And I come away and I'm energized, or I start thinking about something else a little differently. Or we'll talk to a guest and I'll be like,
Yeah.
another aha moment, like those things too are the things I've taken away, quote, from the tea service. So it's been
Yeah.
lovely.
I've met people I would never have met even in the author space that have been a guest on the podcast that were either referred to us or actually wanted to come on. We do a little screening because we want it to fit. We're not, a traditional come on and just promote your book podcast. We want to give back to like more authors who are struggling or maybe just needing that guidance. But man, I mean, the people we've met, Paula Judith Johnson, and she's really big in the romance spaces. And we had Brian Cohen on and all these other people, and we have a wish list. And it's been amazing how much I've learned as an author and a podcaster and business just from interviewing guests. So sometimes we're selfishly like, this question's for us. How do you do
Yeah.
this?
I've done that a lot. This may be selfish.
Well, I
but-
mean, it pertains, but we're like, okay, this is purely for me. Tell me about this. And we learn something. So that's what makes such a fun community is our guests, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I did want to say, Gigi, I'm just like you in that I cannot meditate. When I've gone to hot yoga, I'm sitting there with one eye open, like, how is she stretching like that? I can't do that. And then I'm just like, did I start the dryer? Did it turn it off? What happened? And I'm like, I gotta go to the store. And then people are like making noises and breathing. And I'm like, oh, and I just,
I know.
I can't. I have to do like power yoga where at Core Power, they do yoga where you're like lifting weights and there's music. And I'm like, okay, this is my kind of yoga. A little stretching, a little weightlifting, but I don't have to sit still, you know?
And be
I
zen.
can't. Yeah, I can't be zen. There's just too much in my brain. Absolutely. So I have a question. What have you seen change in the reader community space as you've been doing this? What have you noticed over time? I've seen some amazing, supportive reader communities and some toxic ones, but what are you seeing out there? Seeing any like trends or even what people are starting to pick up more than others? I don't know. What's changed for you?
Kara, I'm going to default to you for this one.
Oh, I was going to say, I feel like you probably have a better pulse with your day job too and the readership.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought really hard about this question. I am the type of person that if I see drama, I avoid it like the plague. So I admittedly will just like go bury my head in the sand a bit because my life is too busy, and that is not why I am in the reader space. That's why we were talking how we've all met on Threads, and that's why I love that space. It feels like a very supportive community. It feels way less toxic than other social media platforms. So maybe just Threads has been a really nice infusion to the world of podcasting. But I don't know. And I want to say more people are reading, but I don't know if that's just because I've continued, with social media, the more you click on one thing, it keeps showing you that type of content. So am I just more immersed in that because that's where I spend my time? I don't know. Gigi probably could speak the best to this.
Well, when it's coming to the podcast, getting into online communities, I'm not sure if I'm the number one expert, but I do see a lot, like you said, in my day job of things that have changed. And y'all are probably aware the libraries there's a lot of challenges over the last 6-7 years with the rise of censorship and book banning. I don't have to go into it all, but I have found recently that I feel like people are being so much more supportive. I have gotten way less, I don't know, I wouldn't say rude comments, but like ignorant comments about like, well, it must be nice to read all day. I've gotten a lot more of, because that's not my job. Like my job is like fixing the toilet, getting yelled at.
Right.
Stuff like that. But I've gotten so much more support, and I feel like that there is like a coming into the fact that we're in like a loneliness epidemic, that people are concerned about reading, that less, according to statistics, that we are in a bit of a slump with how much people are reading, and people are hooked on their phones all the time. As my kid popped up, she's so cute. Anyhow, but we're all on our phones all the time. So I feel like people are aware of that and that they've sort of come back. People who aren't in libraries are now approaching me about like libraries as third spaces and how incredible it is that we still have third spaces that are free. And, those weren't conversations I was having 10 years ago with people. It was much more just like, oh, we have Google, so we don't need libraries, or everybody's going to be reading ebooks now. There is like the physical books are having a glow up, I feel like. So all of that has been, I think, really positive. And then I do love Threads, but Kara, you are like probably more mature than me. Like I will sometimes, I try not to get into the drama, but like I will like chime in a little bit sometimes.
Chime?
Yeah, I was like,
I
it's
made
not to
one
say that I
comment.
don't, but I just feel like there's, my life, like, again, I'm like, there's so many other things happening. This is not where I want to be.
Right. I know. But yeah, I am much more of a lurker, but we were talking about like the hot girl reads drama, and I think I did
Yeah,
I made one like snarky comment, but that was it.
I did too. And I don't want to, yeah, the hot girls read comment. Well, it has something to do with community because this person alienated an entire community. And the community is touting themselves as coming together to fight this. I'm not going to say the details because we don't ever want like to call out other people on the podcast. So you just look up Hot Girl Reads and you'll find it. But a book talker, she just
Yeah. She
has a
sells merch.
store.
Yeah.
She sells merchandise, and people have been using the term hot girls read for forever. There's people with usernames with that.
There's a
And
podcast
the
with that
merch,
name even
yes,
before, since 2023, they've been around.
right.
So
So this community member decided I'm going to file a trademark so people don't copy my merch. The issue for me, and this was my comment that I made, that was my snarky comment, was, and just because I'm in the retail space, this is my whole world. I am a buyer, merchandiser, and I understand merchandising. Your merch has to be something that's a little, I don't know. It can't just be words on a font on a sweatshirt. There's nothing unique about that. Anyone can do that. That doesn't separate you from anything. Gigi, you hold up your mug again. And for those people watching on YouTube, this is such a cute. I'm gonna buy one of those. But it's such a cute. It's distinctive. It's like sparkly. The logo feels like you. It feels like something different and unique. But this just slapping Hot Girls Reads in like Arial font on a sweatshirt, there's nothing there for me. So trademarking that and then telling people you can't use this, a firestorm erupted. She didn't invent the phrase, but she's filing a trademark. And usually, when you do that, you start to go after people for using the same thing. But she said she wasn't going to do that. So all it did was like, it has been a week now, and the book community came for her. I don't endorse bullying. I don't think we should ever be in that space at all, but they are filing to have that trademark taken down. So it's like, was it worth it to alienate your community around you just because you kind of just didn't want extra competition? Or are we all sharing the same space? And like, I mean, I don't want anyone else to come up with drinks in the library ish, drinks with the librarian podcast. There's always going to be competition. There's always going to be people with similar book titles or similar character names. It's like, do you alienate people or just go with the flow? That's the
Yeah.
lesson.
I think my take was like, how did she not expect the backlash? Like I was like, how would
She
you
was
think this was gonna go?
right.
Because it was like there was some screenshot I saw of her stories
Mhm.
where it was like, please take down all your merch with love. And I was like,
Yeah.
ma'am, I don't think that's gonna go very well. And anyhow,
No.
so
The
yeah,
backhanded compliment, right?
Yes.
yes.
Hello.
It was. It
You.
was
yeah.
yeah. It was
I'm
like
surprised it
bless,
went through, to
but
be honest.
also
The
everyone can't do
trademark.
this. And it's like,
I don't
I was
yeah.
shocked. That's
I'm
what the first
surprised.
comment I made to Angela. I was like, how did this pass?
Yeah. It seems way too generic for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, they're actually reviewing it and they may rescind it. So
Mhm.
that's where you kind of ask yourself, was it worth it? Because she's lost thousands of followers as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm
I
not
think
Yeah.
too,
sure.
you kind of wonder though, as an author and just in having a business space, you're like, well, what do I copyright? What do I trademark? What is really mine, kind of thing. And it certainly starts crossing your mind when you see things like this. And it's interesting. My husband, he's in the fishing world, and this gentleman, he named his fishing rods, something, a particular name, and then found out later it was trademarked, and he had to change the name of his entire company, which was super expensive. And then he went
Wow.
with his own name. Like, he had done this twice before. And then he was like, you can't take my name. So he used his own name. So it's really interesting when you start hearing about that. And there's also been legal battles over author pen names before too. So I mean, it's kind of crazy, but you have to start, I don't know, you kind of need to know a little bit about these things and do a little research, I think.
Yeah.
How do you all protect your spaces, your podcasts and your brands?
I actually just started looking into, like, I probably need to trademark Drinks in the Library or do something, like, because like you were saying, what if somebody just starts to, like,
Yeah,
just or what if they go and trademark it and then I have to live and then I
right.
lose it?
Yeah.
But, like, I wouldn't do it so that, like, I can make money. It would just be so that, like, someone else
It's
couldn't.
protection.
Right, it's a protection thing, but
Mhm.
I don't care. I don't know. Kara, where are you on your, trademarking journey?
Yeah, I haven't done any trademarking, but when I
Very good.
started
Did we
this
lose Kara?
podcast, can you hear me? Am I good?
Yes.
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 Okay. When I started the journey 4 years ago, I had a friend that helped me in the background, and she was a business major. And so at the time, she said, go get whatever website, domain name, social media, any platforms that I thought I might use Bookish Flights for. She's like, even if you aren't using it today, go grab yourself the name, and then that way you always have it. And so I did that, and we wrote up a whole business plan. I have not done anything with trademarking it, but I did go snag a bunch of those, different potential sources I could put in my podcast with Bookish Flights. And then that way I have those handles available to me if I want to use them. So that's really all I did, but nothing's past that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your real estate, your domain, right? Especially when you can grab the .com because they're so full.
Yeah.
I my funny story is when I started Drinks in the Library. So it's Drinks in the Library because, like, people will come in and they'll be like, "Do you allow drinks in the library?" And I'm as a librarian, that's literally where it came from. And so then I'm starting and I'm so nervous and I'm like, "Oh, how are people going to find my website?" So I started Googling Drinks in the Library and all that came up were library policy, the different
Oh, yeah.
libraries, their different policies for whether you could have drinks. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've made a huge mistake. But as it's grown, as like, I've gotten more people looking it up. Now, I think if you look it up, it has like, do you mean the podcast Drinks in the Library? And I get a little square.
I mean to look it up.
Yeah. See if it pops up. It might just pop up for me. I don't know.
I
But
think that's
that was my
something
funny
really
story.
important to consider. Now, I'm also not a writer, so I have not written a book, but I feel since I have learned and I've done a lot of different, listened to a lot of podcasts and done classes about marketing, right? All of these things that I did not learn as a physical therapist, never had any of this background, but is you want something that people would actually be searching. So if you're like, okay, I'm thinking about maybe starting a podcast, put that into your consideration. Like, what would people be searching, those keywords? Because you want that organic discovery for your podcast name. And that would be something that I maybe would have considered a little bit more. I mean, it's fine. And Gigi said, it's morphed into be something, your Drinks in the Library, Bookish Flights. It's morphed into it, and you can keep saying it and it will catch on. But you could do yourself a favor and spend a bit more time of doing that. And I did spend time thinking about the name, but I didn't think about it from that aspect. It was something I learned after.
Yeah, I think authors
Yeah.
do this really intuitively because, especially in romance, I'm sure you've seen how we use tropes in our titles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty common, to try to get the double entendre of not just your title, but built-in marketing. So, yeah.
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 Yeah. So yeah, well, it's kind of funny. So the first thing that comes up is your website, but then the AI overview says most modern libraries, including public and university branches, permit drinks if they are in a spill-proof covered container. However, traditional research spaces, local archives, and specific computer stones still restrict all beverages. So that's interesting. I would just go to the library, but I guess, yeah, maybe you have your thermos and you're wondering if it's okay.
Yeah, yeah. It happens quite a bit as people will be like, I told them you would never allow a drink in here. And I'm like, what? Yeah, we do.
Wait a minute. I'm still not over the fact that you say people yell at you. People
Yeah.
yell at librarians?
Mm-hmm.
Who
Oh,
are
yeah.
these people? They're
They're in
monsters.
there. I mean, it's thank you. I appreciate the support. It's a public service job. Like, it really is. People will a lot of times say they want to get into libraries because they love to read, and I love to read too, and I love books. But you are dealing with the public, and so 99% of the people are wonderful, amazing, lovely people, and then you got 1% comes in and they're upset, maybe they're having a bad day, maybe they've got something else going on, and yeah, that's a big part of the job. When people are like, "Oh, I love to read, I wanna work in a library." I'm like, "Well, hold up."
Yeah.
I am also as the manager, let me tell you, I know how to turn the water off, I know how to fix all of the paper towel dispensers. I know exactly how to take apart a shelf and put it back together. I mean, all of those things are really the job. But yeah, then going back and people do yell at you sometimes, but most people are lovely and
Seems
amazing
insane.
and bring
Yeah.
us cookies occasionally and things like
That seems crazy to me. Kara, I wanted to circle back to something you said too. You said you're going more out to do face-to-face events. Was that
Mhm.
right? Did I catch
Yeah,
that? So how are you doing that? How are you pulling off face-to-face? Are you taking your podcast like out into the public and like on the
that would be
road?
my dream job, would be to go do the live bookstore events where the authors come and, they come visit the local
Yeah.
bookstores and they have moderators. And like, I would love to do that job if anybody is looking for a San Diego based person. But I have been at this point. Luckily, in San Diego, we have quite a few events. We have 2 different book fairs, and there's an authors event as well. And so I have gotten myself a quarter table at a lot of these events, and I now have my setup where I have my sign and I will do various things that people come up. Then I actually will what I do is all the authors that have been on the show in that season, I send them, it's completely optional, but I ask them like, "Hey, if you want to send a signed book, like I'll give it away as part of the raffle that we're doing." And then they sign up for my newsletter and they draw for a golden bookmark at my table. And if they get a golden bookmark, then they get to
Oh.
take home a book that's signed by one of the guests. And then I have information about the episode that we did together, but also about information about finding the author. So it's also advantageous for the author. And so that is how I've kind of run them so far. But I'm also a mom of 3, so I don't always get to sneak away because a lot of these events are on the weekends, which my kids play sports as well.
Or
But that is what I have done so far is basically these local events, and I'll just grab myself a table at them.
Wow, that's a great idea, actually.
If you're if you find this is back to the community piece, right? I know for me that if I go have a table at these book fairs, it's going to have readers, and that is my community. That is my listener. Are the readers. So for me, I know
Mhm.
it's worth my time and my money to go spend a Saturday at this. And again, I'm getting to talk to people. So it's really energizing when you go. And it was fun when I did the author one because 2 people came up to the table and we know you from the podcast. And I was like, what? Like even having one of those moments. And so it really is worth time and money if you know that the community that will be showing up to these events are who you want to be in front of too.
Yeah, for authors who are trying to connect with reader communities without feeling salesy or awkward, what are some ways that they can show up as well? Have you ever thought I don't know if you know the answer to that because on the flip side, there are things authors should kind of avoid, I think, when entering reader centralized places, like, hello, here's my book, and then turn away and run away kind of thing. But, that's where I always feel a little I'm still balancing that out because I am a reader and I can talk books like for a long time. And I'm usually the person people are like, oh, I need to research this out or figure this out. And I'm like, this movie, this show, this book, like
Yeah.
I can tell you pretty quickly. So I'm just curious, without feeling salesy or awkward, what should authors, are there any tips or thoughts you have around that?
Well, I can't speak to that, and I know exactly what you're talking about because I go to the events and I
Yeah.
know a lot of authors. One thing that did, I was part of a team, it wasn't just me, but we planned a local book festival here in my community. I live in Richmond, but I live in a little townish size place called Bon Air. So we did the Bon Air Book Festival and we had about 15 local authors. It ended with me doing a live podcast with Meg Medina, who's here in Richmond, but she's pretty big famous children's author. Anyhow, I was really proud because my author friends said that it was one of the best events that they've ever gone to, and that people were coming in and engaging with the authors. And I really feel like it's because we set it up to be, like, inclusive, like, it didn't feel like, "Okay, well, now it's just authors in here, and now you have the pressure to go," and, you feel the pressure, like, "Oh, if I talk to the author, then I have to buy the book." But they were
Right.
saying
Yeah.
yeah, the authors were all saying, like, people were coming up and talking to them, and a lot of them did buy books, but then some of them were just like, "Well, that's great. I'll see you later," but it was still able to build that community. So I was really proud that we put together something that brought people in that were interested in reading and books, but that because there was so much other stuff going on, then it was just much more vibrant in conversation, and people didn't have that awkward moment. So I don't know. I don't if that helps y'all at all. If there's another podcaster like me that wants to do something similar in their community, that
Yeah.
would be my recommendation.
So I've spoken to quite a few writers groups and organizations, and I do a talk called Pitch Perfect, and I talk to writers there about pitching their books to podcasts. And one of my favorite things is you are more than your book, because we are, to your point of using vibrant, Gigi, we are so much more vibrant than just that. And so I always tell them to sit for about 5 to 10 minutes and write a list of all the things that you could speak about today, that you don't have to go spend an hour or a day researching to go present. And then when you start to look at various podcasts to pitch your book to, you're going to say, "Hi, I love your show." Give them a little compliment. "I listened to episode 93 or whatever. And I would love to come talk to your audience," and give them a speaking topic that you would like to talk about. Because for me, I know that if you come and spend 35 minutes with me and you talk to my audience and you teach them something, I will gladly give you a moment to spotlight your book as well. And so I think most podcast hosts, we need guests. And so if you come to them with like, "Hey, I'd love to teach, I think this would be a great fit for your audience," even if you're like, "I have 2 to 3 different things," but use that as part of your pitch. And so just thinking wider than just your book, I think, is helpful too, because
Yeah.
then you're almost like backdooring your book after you spent time giving them something of value too. So I know that's not a live event, but if you're thinking more of the, pitching podcasts, things like that, it could be really helpful doing it that way too.
I think I really appreciate you saying that because we get a lot of pitches for authors who they just want to come on and talk about their book,
Yeah.
which we always want to nurture that in some way, but we try to make it worth your time to come on, and we like to get to at least like 45 minutes, when we have guests. And I don't know that we could just talk about one book for
Mhm.
45 minutes.
And that's not
Okay.
the mission of our podcast.
Yeah,
Our
it's not the
podcast is for
mission.
writers, not readers
It's
necessarily in that vein.
Absolutely. It is. It's for authors authoring, you know.
Yeah.
And I still think, hearing from other authors and their processes and what they did. But that's excellent because we always want to like promote your books, but we want to talk about that thing that you can tell the author community about what you learned, where you are in your journey, how did you get here, what you're doing. I mean, okay, if Rebecca Yaros wants to come on and just talk about her books, we're here. Like we're not
Yeah,
going
we
to
may
say
make an
anything.
exception.
I mean,
Yeah.
And same for drinks in the library. I'm sure Bookish Flights would be glad to have her
Yeah.
too.
P.S. I was on jury duty with Rebecca Yaros, and I was too afraid to talk to her.
Goodness.
Well, I didn't know
No
what to
way.
do. I was like, she's sitting right in front of me.
Yeah, I got a
And
text
it
message.
was-
She's like, "You're not going to believe this." And a
What
little
are the
picture. And I was
She's
like,
odds?
here.
wait,
Yeah. Well, because we're both in Colorado Springs. And I was like, did they just call? You're in that big pool and they're calling names. And I was like, I'm sorry. Rebecca Yaros is here. And I just, we weren't in order. They like line you up. I would have had to like skip the line, stalk her a little bit by the bathroom and be like, "Hey." So I didn't feel like I could do that, but I almost met her and I think it counts. So if anyone's
I
listening
love
that
it.
knows her, tell her. Anyway.
One of my favorite sayings is "no one is you and that is your superpower." And I think thinking about what makes you unique is really important to put in the pitch, because no one's doing it like you. So everybody has
Right.
something. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
True. True.
Everything's
So,
relatable.
yeah, absolutely. One last question I have is for those maybe thinking about starting a podcast. If you could go back and tell your past self something to save you a headache or something that you wish you would have known sooner about the world of podcasting, what would that be? Because I do meet a lot of people are thinking about starting a podcast, and yeah, it's an interesting journey.
I'd say don't get too caught up in the details. I think I spent a lot of time starting out of like overthinking every single edit, starting from scratch every single time. Whereas now I sort of have like my format that I go to. I do similar like social media posts for each episode, and I'm improving on that and I'm changing it. But yeah, I definitely spent a lot of time initially just agonizing over every single detail. Whereas now I realize like people are paying attention, but not as close as you think they are. So that's my advice.
I really like that. I have lots of mantras if you haven't picked up on this, but I'm always like, better done than perfect is what I tell myself all the time. Better done than perfect. But I think for me, what it finally clicked and it just was easier when I was more authentic. Not having a background in the book space, for me in the beginning, there was a lot of that imposter syndrome I had to battle. Outside of being a lifelong reader, I really had no qualifications. I have alphabet soup after my name as a physical therapist, but I have zero when it comes to me as a book podcaster. And I thought I had to do all of these things to fit in or to prove that I was, could be in this space. And the moment that I just kind of let that go and was authentic to what I wanted to post or things I wanted to do, not what I thought I needed to do, it seemed like it just flowed that much better. And it was that much easier. And I was not getting burnt out or feeling like I needed to take a break. And so just being authentic and being who you are. And I'm going to really hammer it home of just being unique and embracing that. And that's okay.
Yeah.
I love that.
I also will say real quick, my worst interview, I'm not going to say we're never going to figure it out which one it was, but like I was so over prepared. Like I was prepared to like the last detail. And I think the guest was like, this is too intense, And so like I had to learn, like, just kind of go with the flow, to not over prepare. If you want to say some weird thing, say it. Like Kara's saying, like, just be yourself and be more authentic, and don't worry about like you have to have everything perfect, because it could blow back in your face.
Yeah, for sure. I think when we were starting the podcast, Angela and I were like, we just want it to be like we got together at a cafe and sat at a table and we just want to chat. Like we'll have questions, we'll try to, guide, and we'll just see where it goes. We were like, you don't want to be over prepared that it's just robotic. Nobody wants to sit and watch that. That's not
Right.
entertaining.
Yeah.
Versus me saying something insane or
Yeah.
Angela saying something hilarious, because it's just, anyway, I think
Doesn't
it
feel
does come down
natural
to
then.
yeah,
Right.
Right.
it's relatable, right? Some days we look crazy. Other days we're like really put together. And then other days it's like,
No.
I just got here. You're lucky
Right.
I'm here, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's real life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This for life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what we're trying to that's why we're the author next door, because we're just your friendly neighborhood authors. We're just here in the neighborhood and we just chat about stuff, and sometimes I've like just blown in from our day jobs like you said, and sometimes totally ready for it. And I had to learn that I used to edit like every little thing because I have my filler words. And the way my mind works is I'll go off on this tangent and I'll be like, in 1983, this happened. And I don't know whose dog it was, but it was in the neighborhood. And people are like, what are you talking about? Where did you go? I'm like, oh, yeah, we're talking about how to do a book launch. Yeah, you're right. I'm so much harder on myself. I never really edit Cassie, maybe the
But you
occasional on
should.
here. And then I am like, what are you talking about, Angela? And I'm going through and taking it out. But I've gotten a little more relaxed on my edits and just
Yeah.
people aren't sitting there just agonizing over, like, did you hear that podcast? She was crazy. I mean, we go about our daily lives. And I used to be a public speaking teacher, and I used to tell my speech students that, like, you're in here for this hour, and yes, you might give a 5-minute speech, and you may think your audience is just staring at you, thinking about you the whole time. Either they're totally terrified and thinking about their speech, even though they're looking at you, or they're listening. And even if you messed up, I mean, when people leave, they're going to check their Facebook, go get something to eat. We kind of go about their day. Like,
Yeah. It's
people
done.
don't think about you as much as you think they might.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, but not in a critical way, you know?
Right.
And so that's one thing I've learned is like, let it go. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to get done.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Progress over
absolutely.
perfection. For
Yeah.
sure.
Gosh, we have so many phrases we could be trademarking here.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Put them on a
And then
bookmark.
it comes back to trademarking. So we have this tradition on our podcast where we have a hot seat topic. It's a conversational card. Anything goes. And
Ooh.
Angela, take it away.
Okay, what is something that you strongly dislike that most people love?
I hate gum. I think it's so gross.
Did you know gum is illegal in Singapore?
I need to go.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Sorry, that was very easy
Yeah.
for me.
No, but it makes sense. It totally makes sense.
That is a really all I can come up with is food references or
Mhm.
books, and I never want to book bash because I also feel like, it's just not the right book for me. So I'm like, which way do I take this right now? I don't know, because maybe people don't like that either. The first thing that came to mind is I like when multiple things are going at the same time, like a sports game will be on, we have music in the background. There's, when there's multiple things, I get very overwhelmed happening,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
noise
Yeah.
wise, not necessarily people. It's
Yeah.
like the noise.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah. If my husband likes to play like music in the background and he's cooking and then he's trying to talk to me, I'm like, buddy, one
Right.
thing. One thing.
Yeah, he'll have the sports game on too, and I'm like, oh my, this is just like way too much. Can we turn the volume off on one?
I know.
I'm like that in restaurants when I'm trying to listen and someone's on their phone on the speaker watching a reel, or we were out to dinner and these two ladies were FaceTiming someone at this table. It was a quiet restaurant and I could not concentrate because I was like, man, yeah. But Cassie,
wow.
the question
Okay, so it's not
is
only me.
what? No, I can't, and I check out, and What is something that you strongly dislike that most people love?
Most people love. I don't know if most people love, but I again went to a food reference. I think right when Gigi said gum, I was like, celery. I hate celery. I can't stand celery. I don't want it in a drink. I don't want the seeds. I don't like if I had chicken noodle soup, I will pick it out. Like I can't
Commitment.
handle I can immediately taste it too.
Oh man, that's good to
You know
know.
how some people don't like the taste of cilantro? Like it
Mhm.
smells
Yeah.
or tastes like soap? I think that's me and celery.
I get it. I mean, I can get the taste. It is a little like bitter, like soap. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like
love
it.
cilantro. I love cilantro.
I love cilantro.
Yeah.
I don't like celery.
Here's my rant, and I'm sorry to take this in an aggressive place, but I'm sorry, I've got to talk about it. Stop putting kale in everything. Stop sneaking healthy food like chickpea crust. Just stop it. Chickpeas aren't a crust. I'm sorry. Or cauliflower crust or kale in every salad. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've ordered a Caesar and it comes and it's like weird and it's kale. I'm like, there's
It's
kale in this Caesar. Why are you hurting me? Stop. Stop
Yeah.
it.
That is
I
too
just
far.
want my romaine lettuce and I want my Parmesan cheese and my basic dressing, and that's all I want.
so I love cauliflower crust pizza.
I know. I do too.
Angela's
can't.
like,
I get so mad.
I'd be mad if I ordered a pizza and that's not what I ordered and it came out that way. Like I wouldn't like that. But if I
That's
knew
what
what I
happens
wanted
to
and
me,
got it,
Cassie. It's all deception.
it's all deception. my gosh, I love it. Kara, Gigi, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. It was lovely to get to know both of you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having
you
us.
for
This
having
was so much fun.
Yeah. Same.
So for listeners, don't forget to give us a review and rating wherever you listen to the podcast. It really helps us with visibility. And if you'd like a little extra romance, join us in the Author Next Door After Dark. This month, we're discussing power dynamics in romance, why chemistry isn't random, and why does one couple feel electric while the other falls flat. We'll be unpacking power shifts that exist in every romance and focusing on the hit show Off Campus. Till next time, keep writing, keep doing. Thank you. Bye.
We'll see ya.
We're so glad you joined us for this episode of The Author Next Door.
Writing is a long game, and it's one best played with community, curiosity, and a little grace for yourself along the way.
Keep showing up, keep learning, and keep telling stories only you can tell.
We'll see you next week, right here next door.